board.
Okay. Oh, and can I share my screen? I attempted to make a presentation and hopefully this goes well and is helpful to somebody. If not, I appreciate your kindness. Um, okay, let's see how I do this. So I say share screen. And you guys are
Hey,
welcome to
Cami.
chime in whenever you'd like, by the way.
That's hilarious because I was just gonna say, how about everybody just save their questions till the end because Cami worked really hard on this
Oh,
presentation.
I get a little nervous when there's no conversation and it's just me.
Okay,
So
we'll chime
you're
in.
welcome to wait or welcome to join in, but it does make me more comfortable when I'm not the only one talking.
Okay.
Um, Whatever you would prefer. And if you have questions you want to address after, that's fine too. Okay, here is my fancy slideshow that I've never done before. Okay, so who was it? Cindy that brought up this concept of, or this idea of how do we keep the joy of music alive in our students? It just that it is such a common thing for them to go through these phases of I love it to disengaging. And what do we do about that? Okay, so I wanted to start with this little quote that sometimes we think of the power of music as being entertaining or moving in some way, but it goes far beyond that. So, music has been shown to modulate several cardiac and neurological functions and to trigger measurable stress reducing pathways, to modulate blood pressure, heart rate, respiration, EEG measurements, body temperature, galvanic skin response, alter immune and endocrine function, ameliorate pain, anxiety, fatigue, and depression. So, music is amazing in so many ways. Oops, there we go. So, I'm going to get a little sciencey because I love the science. So, I'm going to talk about the science of emotion since we're talking about joy and maintaining that joy. Emotion, the Latin for emotion is energy in motion. Your body is composed of energy producing particles, each of which is in constant motion. So, like everything in the universe, you are vibrating and creating energy, which to me is kind of exciting. Sound energy comes from vibrations moving through something like your body, for example. Emotions resonate with the vibrational frequency they generate. So, for example, also this means that if your student is not resonating with a piece of music, it also means they're not, of course, emotionally or vibrationally resonating with that piece of music. Um, but music is very vibrationally complex due to pitch, dynamics, timbre, and rhythm, and various factors that make it a super complex vibrational character. Um, so, helping your students to connect to the emotion that is available to them through the vibrations in music, there are a few things you can do. You can have the student take the music once it is at 100%, is what I like to clarify. Like, use the piano marble to get those notes and rhythms right. And then make sure they take it away so that they can personalize it, so that they can create that resonance. Because when they're in training with piano marble, they don't get to personalize it. You really got to take it away from the technology to do that. Um, Awareness, have the student pay attention to what physical sensations they're feeling from the emotions in the music so they can connect with the physical sensation of what that music resonance feels like. Also, improvising and exploring the keyboard can be a process of emotional exploration as well, for them to kind of explore their own inner world through improvisation. If any of this is not making sense, please let me know. I, like I said, studied music therapy in college, and I did a pilot study in my internship with a group of people who had late stage dementia at a care center. And there was an issue there where they had heightened agitation around um, daily skills such as taking a shower, using the restroom, cleaning their teeth. You know, when the aides would try to help them, they would the people with dementia would get aggressive and agitated. So I came in as the music therapist to say, what can I do to help reduce the agitation of these experiences? And I used something called the ISO principle, which was I should have changed this because agitation to dancing cooperation doesn't make sense. I'll explain that. So what I would do is when you're agitated, your heart rate is elevated. So I would take music with a quick pulse that would match or validate their heart rate. And that connected them to me. And then I would slowly introduce music that had a slower and slower pulse, and it would actually bring their heart rate down. And in consequence, their agitation was reduced. But it's so important to start with validating their current emotion, or in this case, their current heart rate, before moving them into a different emotional experience.
That
I
is so
didn't.
beautiful.
Isn't that not amazing? And when I did it, I was like, is this actually going to work? It was amazing. It worked incredibly well. Um,
That's so cool. I'm like thinking of ways I can use that with my toddler.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, speaking of, my next thing is my son had colic, really, really bad. And so I used this principle with him because we could not get him to sleep. By accident, we realized one Halloween that the Monster Mash calmed him down. We don't know why. But what we did is started with the Monster Mash and created a CD that took his heart rate from agitated, which he always was agitated, down to a calm, sleeping state. And we use this every single night to get him to sleep. So yes, you can use this with your kids.
this is amazing.
I'm so in love with this.
And so how do you apply this to your teaching? If you can find music they can get excited about, they have associated memories. Like with the people who had dementia, I used music from their youth, from that period of time that they had emotional connections to music and memories. Also exposing them to new music, so they may find something they love they didn't even know about because they resonate with it in some way or another, vibrationally, emotionally, and something that matches their nature. That Claire de Lune, part of the reason it probably has this beauty to it is because it really matches my nature. I'm kind of a calm, peaceful. I don't know if you get that from me, but a calm, peaceful. That I love calm and peaceful music. My husband, on the other hand, loves rag. He wants to bring joy to the world through this happy feeling and energy. He has a high energy personality. So with our students, they really often resonate. It doesn't mean they can't like a variety of music. I also play Maple Leaf Rag, but my husband's always like, that just doesn't seem right coming from you. I thought that was
I give you Canadian permission to play the Maple Leaf Rag.
all right. Oh,
Okay.
Maple Leaf, right? I actually love the Maple Leaf
Ah.
Rag, and but usually your students, each individual has a certain type or style of music they resonate with the most, and it's nice to give them the opportunity to at least to explore that. Learning styles and interests. So we actually learn through different modalities more than others. I found out I learned through conversation, actually speaking, which can be good and can be bad. If I have the opportunity to speak, great. If I don't, I have a hard time learning. Kinetic learners, something you can do with them is create a dance, have them record their piece, and have them choreograph a dance and record them dancing to their own piece. If that is something they love, is dancing, incorporate it, because all of a sudden there's more of a connection to that piece for them. If they're visual learners, have them create an art piece that represents the piece, especially if it's a composition. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. But any piece. And then they could, if they wanted to, create a video where they show them actually creating the piece of art while their music is playing. It's just a cool idea. It's just a random thing that I found that was interesting. Scriabin perceives sound as color. So I thought that was interesting.
Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix too?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I know Mr. Holland's Opus, that video, he did a concert for his deaf son using colors while the orchestra was
Yeah.
playing. So,
Synesthesia.
yeah, colors have vibrations associated with pitches. So there is a connection among all the vibrational factors here. And by the way, in nature, the vibrations of nature, the overtone series, is found in every single object. We can't hear it all the time, but that, if you're familiar with the overtone series, that's fascinating to me that it's found in nature. Acting. If they love acting, have them make their music programmatic. Some of these videos that, well, like this little gal of Anne Hanson's niece, was it? That she did all this acting to her music. Oh, it added so much. And you can do it while the music's playing or as a video, just like that girl did, but giving them an opportunity to connect some of their other passions to music and make a creative product out of that can really increase that connection with their music. What do they most enjoy about music? When I started, the math and patterns of music were fascinating. I just love the perfection of it. It's just my mind having A plus B equals C is like a happy place for me. I really love it. Do they love the creative process? Like, are they really wanting to compose or create music videos or be more engaged in that creative process? Do they love the power of music to elicit emotions? That's definitely one for me. When I perform, I really want to inspire and connect and create meaning for people. Do they love to perform or entertain? Kind of like my husband with the rag. Do they like to just lift people's burdens that way? Do they love to compete? I know some students love to compete and they need opportunities for that. Are they working toward a specific goal, like going to college? Do they have a specific goal with their music and they're really focused when they have goals? Do they like to collaborate, being part of an ensemble, in accompanying? Like, find out what their passion, where they connect to music, because it can be different for different students. Making music more meaningful. If you have associations with the music, like if you have taught them the history of the composer and the piece and they have that story connected to the music, it can make it more meaningful. You can have them create their own story about what's happening in the music. I did this in college because I could not differentiate all of the pieces that I had to be tested on. And so I made these little stories up that were happening, like an ice skater that fell down. And I don't know, I made up some stories to help me remember. Composing can be very personal and can help the student feel like the music is theirs, that they own the music. That can make it more meaningful for them. Adding words, lyrics, and singing can add power and meaningfulness to piano music. I love singing while I play the piano for this reason. One of the reasons I love it is because words can take a painful emotion and make meaning of it and help them to integrate empowerment or whatever it is into their life. And of course, I have music therapy background, so that's part of the reason I went into that. Fun, motivation, and competition. Piano Marble excels at this. There are monthly challenges, the YouTube competition, gamification, progress feedback through scores and leveling, leaderboards, prizes. I mean, if you want help in these areas, Piano Marble offers quite a bit. Again, several of you mentioned doing this, and I love this, having the student create goals that they can get excited about. And the more excited they are, the better they will be at reaching for those goals. Celebrate their progress. Who was it? I think it was Evelyn who talked about calling it sharing instead of performing. I love that so much because it gives this idea around the concept that you're giving a gift to someone else when you perform. And I like that. Certificates, creating recordings that they can memorialize what they have learned. Having a personal recital that's only about them, not about any of the other students. That's a way to really celebrate that person. Tie it into their interests. Are they really into video games? I have noticed students like that really want to learn the music from those games. Are they really into certain TV shows, the Marvel series or Star Wars or whatever? My mom, musicals. She loves the musicals. So different types or styles of music. Are they interested in learning a specific skill on the piano? Is it sight reading? Is it composing? Is it improvising? Is it noodling around, playing around with things, learning the patterns? What are their interests? Am I going too fast?
I mean,
Nope,
you could
you're
spend
going
a
out of.
million. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing an overview. I think this is like a multi-part series, dude. This is
Yeah,
like
it's true.
so much wonderful. I'm just like, oh,
Oh, good. As long, I hope you
yeah,
can come away with something. So,
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Another thing is exploration, enjoyment, and exposure. So have your student listen to music, explore music by listening to different music, and then have them choose piano pieces based on what they've listened to. And, most of you do that, I think. Frustration, give the student permission to step away or change it up when it gets too frustrating so they don't get into a pattern of feeling like they're doing something for someone else instead of for themselves and their growth and development. Enjoyment, have some days just be for enjoying music, no progress necessary. For example, like say you just had a recital, a lot of teachers take a week off after the, maybe you say, this week your assignment is to play whatever you want and enjoy it, no progress necessary. Or on the weekends, or, at some point, because it's like you are telling the student this is important. This is an important part of learning how to play the piano. I taught myself, and I think part of the reason I thrived so much is because I spent so much time playing what I enjoyed and not worrying about progress, just playing. And that's also why I'm a good sight reader, probably as well. Service, being able to lift and inspire through their music can be very impactful for the student. So again, it's not them doing something to like because they're supposed to, but in a way that they feel like they're making a difference for someone else. So whether they accompany someone else, which I love doing, or they perform somewhere to lift people who are suffering or who could really use that lift. Moving forward a cause through their music. I've seen this happen too, where they create a music video that is really impactful. They're trying to communicate a cause through their music. In fact, I just talked to a student who is going into forestry, which I thought was interesting because he's an incredible musician. And he's like, I want to create music that helps people take care of the environment. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Who is this person?
I gotta remember his name. I just met him. Tanner?
That's such
Is it?
a good, that's such
Isn't that a
a
thoughtful
good
thing?
idea. That's very,
Yeah.
I have to figure out how that would even work. That's lovely insight.
I'm sure the words of the music somehow. I'm not sure, but do
Ah,
you,
yeah. Hmm.
do you still love music? Do you still experience joy from music? Are you still growing and improving? And I'd have to say yes, because you're all here and you're prioritizing, collaborating, growing, coaches, courses, teachers. Do you feel inspired? I do every time I come to this group, I'm going to tell you. Are you making time to do what you love? And that is the hardest thing because time is more valuable to me than money, to be honest. Students can feel the energy you have around music and teaching. Are you burnt out? Are you not loving it anymore? Re energize yourself, and it actually affects your students in a big way. And last of all, the importance of letting go of a student. Because we've all, and this is so painful for us, because we care so much about our students. Students go through seasons. They might be going into high school, and all of a sudden, life is crazy busy. Or if they're an adult, they just had a baby, or they just moved, or they just, something crazy happened. And they really probably just need a break and to come back to it. But as long as that break allows them to preserve their love for music, they'll come back. That they won't be gone forever. And you have given them such an incredible gift, not only the power of music, but of memories and relationships they created while working with you, that's what they're going to remember more than the skill that they've developed even. Do they have competing passions? I have some students that are into soccer and music just does not win out. They are just more passionate about soccer. And although we would love everybody to have music be their number one passion over all others, we are all unique and individuals. And sometimes, especially as they grow and develop, they get more clear on what their true passions and their strongest passions are. So we may lose them at that point. Not lose them, I shouldn't say, but they may want to spend more time in other passions. And maybe they can keep up on piano, but just not the degree that they've done up until this point.
Hmm.
Maybe it needs to be kind of a practice streak kind of situation instead of really continued growth and development as much as it was, if that makes sense.
I find my daughter is a soccer maniac, but if she hears a song, she will find it she will learn it, and she doesn't
Yeah,
really keep it as a progression. She just
right.
enjoys
It's
it, you
still
know?
alive, but it's just
Yes,
presenting in a different way for a period of time.
exactly.
Exactly. Good example. Um, Progress and collaboration. This group I love because I think it was the very first week Evelyn was talking about just this vision of prioritizing the student and providing the best possible experience for the student. And I know Piano Marvel prioritizes the teachers and wants the teachers to have great success. And it's just an amazing collaboration. Um, I don't know if this is a little history lesson, but in the Middle Ages, they had something called guilds. And like Artist Guild is an example of a guild of artists. And what happened is they to get into this guild, you had to go through it wasn't called an internship, but I can't remember the name of it, but a similar idea. And then a journeyman. You guys probably know the terms. I can't think of it. And then they would keep their secrets safe within their guild. And this was how what kept, and they did this because they wanted people to essentially to preserve their customers. Like, we want people to come to us because we have this trade secret. The Black Plague hit, and so many people died that these guilds had to join together to help one another. And what happened is all art improved substantially. And instead of them losing their customers, there was a lot more engagement from the customers, and everybody thrived together. It was the beginning of the Renaissance time frame, which is kind of an interesting idea. I feel like, and also with the Gutenberg press, um, when it was developed, it was a game changer because all of a sudden information was made more available to everybody, and it changed the whole landscape. And now we have the internet and technology like Piano Marvel that is changing the landscape, and we're having to adapt and learn how to change how we go about doing things. And I feel like that's kind of a possibility for us in it with using Piano Marvel and teachers and collaborating that we are, whether we know it or not, all specialists in one way or another. Just like if you go to the doctor and you're like, I need my foot surgery. Well, I know somebody who's really good at doing foot surgery. You know, we may feel like we're generalists, but once you know your interests, strengths, and talents and gifts, you are a specialist. There's something you do, you know, very well. No teacher can be all things to all students. My concern in presenting all of this was that everybody would go, how in the world am I going to incorporate all of these things? You have a particular expertise and passion that makes you particularly well suited for specific types of students. um, Connecting the nature and interests of students to teachers with the focus and expertise that comes from their strengths and interests is a passion I have. I would love to be involved in that somehow at some point. I don't know what it would look like or how it would happen, but that would be so fun. And it allows teachers to give their most potent service, provide the biggest impact, and feel the most fulfilled and inspired. So it's kind of a win-win type of situation. Here's a little picture to kind of symbolize what that might look like. So to say we're all piano teachers, but some work best with adults, some work best with children, for example. And maybe somebody who works with adults is best at working with advanced level students. And maybe the style they're most best to work with is jazz, and maybe their best focus is composition. And so this just gives an idea of if we created filters to help students find teachers, these are the types of filters we would put in so that we could help people find you better because you're amazing. That's it. Anybody have any questions?
Woohoo!
Thanks, Garen.
You guys need to be a little bit more generous with your applause here, folks.
As long as
Here
it
we go.
touched one
Most of us are
person, we're
muted.
good.
Okay, you can do
Yeah.
this kind of applause then.
There you
I'll
go.
mute
Thanks.
myself
There we
again.
go. Yeah, any thoughts, any questions, I kind of threw it at you real fast because I was trying to get it in.
Yeah, it's a million, a million. I love this. If I were to like sign up for a master's program today, I would take this with me. I would take this
Oh,
presentation and say, This is what I want to do. It's so fascinating to me.
So, what do you feel, what stuck out to you as really helping your students connect with the joy of music? What was the thing that really stuck out to you?
Um,
Something that I would like to input, and I love this presentation. You are so wonderful. Um, when it comes to you went further than I went in having students move to music, but I always have, if my student is preparing, say, a more advanced piece, I always do have them, what I do is have them pull up YouTube and dance to their piece. That I always
Yeah.
want them to dance to their piece. If it's nothing more than standing and eyes closed, and because you want them to internalize that piece. Another thing that I recommend to everyone is to pull up Pacelbel. Um, and maybe it's just that I personally connect so much to that piece. But if one will just pull up YouTube Pacelbel, you will go to another world. It is just wonderful to move to. But moving to your music it really connects the student to the piece that they're going to play. Like your beautiful Debussy. I am going to pull up that video and dance to it. It is just
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you. I love
I
that
love you,
idea.
Evelyn. That is, I'm some like, is anyone else? I'm gonna do that too now. Thank you, Evelyn.
I
Who
was
would?
like, I actually haven't done. Oh, I should give a caveat. All of these ideas, I've done very few of them. It's like I understand them, but I have not gotten to the implementation for a lot of them. I love that idea. That's so simple. Of course, I would have to do it behind a locked door, but
Oh,
I.
yeah.
I really love that idea because they get the physical sensation that they can connect with it as well.
Mhm.
I
Shan-
have a question for you. I have a
yeah.
question. Um, it might be obvious to all of you, and maybe I need to know my students better, but how do you recognize what kind of a learner they are?
That's a great question, Anne. And like kind of like Karen Faye said, and maybe you guys can answer this for Anne, but a lot of the stuff in this presentation was kind of a bird's eye, like
Yeah,
general overview type of thing where it's like lots of great ideas. Can we zone it down? And this is
maybe
one
just
of the
try
zone
a few.
downs. When I was doing it, they're like,
Mhm.
oh, there could be a series on this. I'm like, yeah, there really could.
It's
But
fabulous.
does anybody
I
have any?
agree with the series idea. For me, I find if they, I do, I play copycat, and I have them look at steps and skips really, really early on, and I know that if they get the steps and skips, they're going to see whatever they need to play what's on the page, with some training. But if I find a lot of them struggle with copycat because they've never even used that muscle before. So copycat is a big thing, especially with guitar because of the downs and ups. But with piano, if you give them a position and they can feel their way around or hear their way around a five-finger position, a pentascale, then um, if they're not very good, they're probably visual.
Yeah.
That sort of way. Process of elimination. That's all I do. But
Well, and some students really, really thrive on the sight reading. I mean, the ear training, and where some of
yeah.
them just can't do it unless they can see those notes. So um,
Mm-hmm.
I
I
know that we
also
all have this thing.
I also do it through like memorization. Like if you're having a student memorize a piece, pull out one of their senses, like have them close their eyes when they play the piano.
Oh, I love it.
Have them turn the piano. Well, this is the last one, but have them play starting at different points in the piece, and then you can. What is it? I have these all written down, but essentially you take out a sentence. So what we took it, oh, hearing is the hardest one for me to take out. Like if you know exactly what it's supposed to look like on the piano, you are definitely a visual learner. Because if you can turn that keyboard off, if you happen to have a digital keyboard, which everyone here does, and you still know you got it right, you're definitely a visual learner. And the motor memory, that's my weakest. Like some people, as soon as they've learned it, they've got it because they know how it feels in their
Yeah.
hands. And to change up and do those sections is kind of hard for them because it's messing with the motor memory, like not
Right.
starting at the beginning.
Yes.
That's one thing I do to really identify what is the hardest for them to take out of the equation, and
Right.
what's the easiest for them to take out, and that helps clarify what their strengths are. But Michelle, were
I've
you gonna?
also, oh, sorry.
I thought Michelle was gonna add something earlier, but I can't remember.
There were like several things, and now they've kind of passed now. I always think I have something awesome to say, and it's sometimes not even true. So just like
Like,
it's all good. We can skip past it. Yeah.
Okay.
I just started doing this thing with my students that are very visual learners, to to sort of shift the focus into their hearing. Is I get them to listen painstakingly slow and find the center of a note, because when they like they'll match it and they'll be like, that I mean, it hurts, my blood curdles. And then I'm like, okay, well, do you hear it? And like guide them down or up through the tuning. And when they find the middle of the note, something clicks. And I've got some adult students that they think it's a little bit insulting for me to ask them to play that slow, and they don't get that they gotta listen, that they gotta give it some time so that the note has enough time to have a wave, for goodness sake. So
Yeah.
getting them to listen to the center of the note, and then finding pitches from there can help the really good visual learners sort of shift into their ears a bit. That's all.
I have a question, Karen. Before you were speaking about something like copycat, and I didn't really get it. Is that a piece or is that a method or?
No, it's kind of like something that I play with my students to
Like a game?
develop their ears. Yeah, I'll play something.
It
I'll
is
say,
a
okay, we're
game.
gonna.
I
Yeah,
do not know the
I
word.
just play it. Yeah, it's
Okay.
like just something that I make up. It's not really like, it's not a game you can buy or anything, but it's like if you say, okay, we're gonna work in D major, and we're gonna put your thumb on G, and then they have to figure out, oh, I got to better use that C sharp, and then I like play something, and they can hear where when it arrives at the tonic, and then they can sort of they have to use process of elimination for sure sometimes, but they get better at it and they hear the differences between the notes, and because they're using their fingers to make those physical connections, um, it all starts coming together for them. I really like playing that copycat, and obviously just start with like rhythms, and then adding 2 notes, adding 3 notes, and then a 5 finger position, and then etc.
Oh, well, and
But does
another
it
way
mean
to
something? This copycat? I don't know this word. Does it mean
Oh,
something?
I'm sorry,
Uh,
copycat is like, okay, so say something.
okay.
Okay.
This game. Yeah,
See?
I know.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
called copycat. All right.
Okay. Yeah. That's
yeah, we have
copycat.
people from
That was a
several
beautiful
countries here,
demonstration, Karen Faye.
actually.
You're welcome.
Another way to test the motor skills is to have them play this piece very slowly. That really messes with their motor. I mean, it messes. I don't want to mess with them, but like it tests them in a way as well. Chantel, was there anything that stuck out to you? I'm curious.
Well, I was just thinking, I have a lot of younger students and not very many adults. And it's almost guaranteed that the younger students like the kinesthetic stuff,
Oh
hands-on
yes,
stuff.
yes, yes.
And so we do a lot of that, and like the dancing and stuff, they're all over that, right? And so I was trying to think about how to implement some of the other skills for that age group, but thinking that sometimes that the skills that they learn, like the audio, visual, and things like that, kind of come with age. So I was just trying to think like what would be an age appropriate way to engage with different students.
Yeah, and
If
actually, a lot of the ideas that I presented today come with development. Like, if you're working, my presentation probably wasn't the best for people who work with young children,
No, it's so
because
good.
oh,
I mean, some things
very
apply.
good.
I'm not saying like, what I mean is the development happens like going from a newborn to a teenager. There's so much development that happens, and most of the time, those kids, that they're just doing what people tell them to do. I mean, up until a certain
Mhm.
point. I mean, you get to a teenager and you feel like you know yourself a little bit better and have something to say. And I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think we underestimate um, our young children, our
Mm-hmm.
young learners. I really think that we can bring more to them faster than we think. And it does depend on the student. I mean, some of them just are not going to move very fast, and that's fine wherever they are. But I, I, I would challenge us to pay very close attention and at least experiment with challenging them with more, because I think we would be surprised. I think there is more they can do than I think we think they can. Another thing that I really strongly share, and that is the idea of having the student. Now we're um, and a little more of an elementary to a little more advanced piece. But if they're in their piece, before they practice it, ask them to play the scale, to play the positions of the chords, and play arpeggios. Because if they will sit down and orient themselves to the piece, um, they will handle it better. And reminding them that I'm a real stickler about harmony structure. I think that if a student really understands the harmony structure of the piece they're playing, they will play it with more understanding. And when we get into some of our challenges, and we've got an advanced student getting into those challenges, what I do is I say, okay, this is way easy for you, but why don't you challenge yourself to do it perfectly the first time, 100% the first time on the really easy stuff? So they're
Mhm.
still challenged when they're doing the challenges that are presented with Piano Marvel. And so they're not boring. I mean, it's really boring to play C, 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 C. But if we have them play to perfect at that level, they'll get them, because you got to have the rhythm right. You've got to have the note right. But those are the two things. But I really encourage everyone to focus on the harmony structure of the piece. If they're in the key of D, they need to play that scale. They need to play the chords, and they need to play arpeggios. And that's exactly, I mean, the Piano Marvel does have the the presentation, but no, I'm just sitting down to play my sonatina, and I'm going, it's maybe the Clementi in G. Well, I'm going to play my uh, scales, and I'm going to play the chords, and I'm going to play the arpeggios. Because when you get into those sonatinas, that's all they're made of, is
Mhm.
scales and broken chords and arpeggios.
And descending thirds. 1 2 3 1 4 2
Right.
3 1 4 2 3 1 4 2.
Well, and Cindy, you were the one who got us to even think about talking about this discussion, was there anything from it that was helpful for you specifically?
Yeah, when you were talking about all of this, it kind of made me, I kept thinking of different students and where are they and what am I missing with them? You know, what can I look for? What can I see? Like, you know, this one autistic boy that I mentioned last time, well, I have two, and one has this love of a certain type of piece. You know, it's the sweet classical type stuff. And this other one is just full of anxiety. And he wants to play All Star from Shrek. And it's not on Piano Marvel. So I found it and copied it for him last week. And he was surprised, but he was like, oh no, it starts on this note, you know, not this key. And I said, well, we're going to learn it in this key because I figured it would be easier for you. And he's just so tied up tight with every little thing that I'm thinking, how can I take that apart and help him to enjoy a gift that he has? He really does have a gift.
Yeah.
What's the frequency for him?
You mean what kind of music does he gravitate to?
Yeah, ask Cami what his frequency is. She's the frequency
Yeah.
expert
Oh,
here.
well, what I was thinking of was that ISO principle. Like if it's somebody who's generally speaking an anxious person,
Mm-hmm.
using that principle to have a piece that they start at and then bring them down to a better, you know, a calmer or a more relaxed state. And then you can introduce other music to them at that point. I don't know exactly what this would look like in your situation, you know, with this specific student, and maybe Tabea knows, because I know music therapy and autism is a big area as far as how to help specifically people who have autism. But I just generally speaking, if somebody experiences anxiety, do they have an elevated heart rate? I know agitation, yes. Anxiety, I don't know. Does anybody know?
Yes.
Yes.
That's part of it. And
So the
to the
fact
point
that-
where you're like, and you hold your breath a lot. I'm
Because-
just speaking from experience.
Music
It
has
must
so
not
much.
be. It must not be necessarily calm music, but rather the rhythm. It's very much about the rhythm in my
Yes.
experience,
Or the pulse.
and repeating patterns. So even in music, to have repeating patterns. I have seen
For
children
stability.
with autism or hyperactivity as well who like strong music, not necessarily calm music, but that there are repeating patterns, that there are repeating rhythm, and they can repeat this rhythm with their, like, copycat it. Yeah.
Yes. Copycat.
So essentially, if there's a piece that this particular student that helps them go from a state of anxiousness to calmness, to start with that piece, because then they're going to be so much more open to exploring and doing all different kinds
Actually,
of growth.
you could even use that if in some situation this person gets very anxious, you can always return to this piece like a safe haven. So
Oh, right, if you're in the middle of a lesson.
Something easy, something short, not like 10-minute
Yeah.
symphonia or something like that, but yeah, something.
This student, his recital piece is William Tell. You know, da 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 da.
There you go.
That's his piece, and then he has this.
I think also a good idea is for these type of students. Actually, it's good for every student, I think, but to understand that the piano is not only the goal. I mean, there are these kind of kids or even adults, they come with this idea, I would actually like to play already like a master piano player. And it's like, I just want to show off what I can. But the piano is much more, it's like a tool, and it's, besides many other things, a tool for expressing ideas, things. We spoke about mathematics. It is really a tool for many things. So autistic children, for example, they can use it to express what they cannot express otherwise, or to communicate. So if you can play something together, like I like this idea. I will use this word now very often, copycat. So you play a part and the student repeats that part, or even better, the student starts a part and you copy that. And then you have a communication, which is not this typical human communication that can make so much fear to these people.
And it's so much about relationships as well, like with what you're saying. Like, in fact, I did an exercise once where you stood in front of somebody and you mirrored them as a person, and any movement they did, anything that they did, you mirrored it. And it was so interesting because it was like really personally validating. It was weird that I left.
It can also be very terrifying. People
Yes.
like me would not like that.
Yes. Oh, it was, because you're like, oh my gosh, but you feel seen and heard. It is terrifying, actually. It's actually very terrifying. But it's a similar concept with copycat, that you're saying, I hear you and I'm connecting with you and I'm seeing you. And you know, you don't have to tell them that's what you're doing, but that's what they're experiencing, is they get to play the role of being heard, I guess.
Validation is such a good word for that. It just clicked for me when you're validating their feelings by matching their
Well, and the
frequency.
power of validation is it opens them up to move with you. Like, you're no longer in a controversial relationship. Not that you're that way with your students, but it makes it like you have met them where they're at. It's just like if you present a problem to somebody and they say, "Oh, I understand you," and then you want to share more because you're like, "Oh, they understand me." But this is communicated through music as well. So this experience allows them to want to connect with you more, and that allows them to grow in their musical journey and to be able to learn faster as well.
Another activity that is fun to do, and it leads into improvisation. So you got the copycat idea, but one is question and answer. So you play something and ask them to answer it, and that leads them into improvisation. But that's a conversation, and to have a conversation for just a few minutes sort of brings them out in their expressions of who they are and the music they feel.
This is very good for music theory as well, and composition, because actually you have very often a piece with a question and answer. So yeah, great idea.
Well, and Q, did that student submit to the YouTube competition?
What are you talking about? The one that I set up there on the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the competition. It's
Oh.
under compositions. Yeah, and you can see, in fact, you can see on the thumbnail, you can see her flute and her piano and her ballet dancing. It's all there. So you can grab it.
Ballet dancing. I
Yeah,
love
she's
that.
doing ballet
That's amazing.
to her own original composition.
That's so cool.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
Great example of doing everything that we were talking about. That's amazing.
So if students want to go through and see the entries, how is the best way to direct them to be able to go to different entries?
Probably just to the URL that puts them at the first, like, so it's YouTube competition /entries /the number, I think, like, because there's several different divisions. One second, I'll just drop it in the chat. One second.
Okay.
I used to do Let It Go with my second grade music class, and they came alive.
Oh, are you? I like don't even hear it anymore because it's constantly playing. She has this little it's like a box. It's called a Tony box that tells stories and plays music, which is great because it like reduces screen time, which is awesome. But she just like carries it around and like dances to Disney music.
Hey, so. Disney Challenge started today. Is anybody that got their students already going on stuff?
Yep.
My students all like chose Disney songs like 2 weeks ago. I was like, okay, they're ready.
Yeah.
They want to do the challenge.
Out the gates.
We actually didn't plan to participate. We thought to participate the next year because they have a very low level, and me too. I actually did not even want to contribute here as a teacher, nothing like that. We really stumbled into it, and the
Good.
experience was so great. Really, because the way we had to do that, the whole process is teaching so much. Usually you think it's only to show and demonstrate what you know. And we really stopped caring about that. It was really all about how do we do it? And it was so much fun. So yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And Cindy, that is in the chat now, so you can just send that link to your.
Okay.
And if you guys want, I could probably share that presentation with you. Just let me know. And next week, we're going to be lucky to hear from Ann Q, who has shared a little bit about how she does online lessons with me, and I was really impressed. So she's going to share some tips and tools for doing online teaching, which everybody is doing right now. So we could all use a little, help in that area for sure. So we're excited to have her do that.
Great.
Thank
you,
I
Anne.
just put something up there that you guys can't miss this video. It's in the early elementary. It's Junsu King. He's got 2 of them up there. His whole video is a story of his relationship with his dog. And it's a story about, he plays through a number of, you've got to see it. You've got to see it. It's so cute. It just really is.
All right.
Okay.
Is he playing piano?
He's playing piano, but he plays different pieces to tell about his relationship with his dog.
Nice.
Oh, so he's kind
And
of telling a story with his music.
This kid is 6 years old,
Oh,
that's
lovely.
cute.
Don't miss it. It's so darling. It's just
That's so cute.
You're so darling. I am definitely going to do that. Wait.
All right.
You are
Well,
darling.
any other questions, comments, or thoughts before we wrap this meeting up?
My comment is, you are amazing, Cami.
Aw.
And I'm so glad that you did this. I love to hear about this topic.
Oh, thank you. I
I
have to tell
really
you, I
do.
was really nervous to share because I thought, I hope this is valuable for someone. So
It is extremely valuable. Is the best way for us to retain this information to just replay the video, or can you actually share the PowerPoint or something? Or do you have it is really good stuff. Really good.
I made it in slides. Is that shareable? Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I can even put that in the newsletter before we leave for the teachers.
okay.
Your presentation.
It's good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
There we go. Hey, thanks to Chantel for getting that newsletter idea off. Hopefully everybody's enjoying the newsletter. Karen Fay has really been spearheading a lot of the, getting that out. So I think it's awesome. And
It'll be better this month. No
Karen Fay's
broken links,
brilliant with how
nothing.
she does stuff. I do not even know how she does it.
You're lovely.
But thank you all for coming to this meeting because you are what makes these meetings amazing. So we will see you next week unless anybody, Michelle, did you have anything?
I wanted to say last thing, if I can.
Yeah.
I shared a link with a learning scenario I made actually for a STEAM lesson plan. So it is with science and these kind of things. But you can only take out the piano part or the music part because this was about the Marseillaise. This was about social engineering and how music can change society. So we used that to introduce actually physics and mathematics to children and programming. And we used a lot of elements for music programming, which can also be very funny if children lose interest in the piano. You can combine that with programming their own music and the computer, or with this kind of procedural music and trying to play that afterwards.
So, and I guess I didn't, Kari, did we ask you, did you have anything thoughts or anything to share? Because we didn't hear from you really.
No, it's Carrie is actually how you say.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's
Thank
really
you for
okay.
letting me know.
So I do, I have a student with ADHD. So, and I've been trying to help him. And so several of the things that you talked about, as well as I have someone with a disability. So I'm just going to look a little bit deeper into a lot of this just feeling it and meeting them where they're at, and then also having them experience it more just with their hands, because that's me too. I mean, I do that better if it's more, you know, and use more senses. So yeah, you just kind of opened up a can of worms, so I'm ready to
Good. We like cans of worms.
Excellent. I actually have ADHD. If you want to ask me about how
yeah.
music runs with ADHD, my
Okay.
brain is 44 years of that nonsense. If you want to pick it,
Perfect.
you're welcome.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye now.